A few months back, while visiting the house I'd been financially supporting for years, I stumbled upon my family's will quite by accident. It wasn't as if my parents had a heart-to-heart about it. No, I found it while assisting my dad with paperwork. I'd been taking care of their mortgage, groceries, and household repairs, whereas my brother Eric did absolutely nothing, no job, no responsibilities. That day, my dad asked me to scan various legal documents. As I shuffled through them, a folder titled Estate Plan and Last Will and Testament caught my eye. Curiosity got the better of me. Opening it, I found the words that shattered me. Everything, and I mean everything, was intended for Eric. The house, their savings, the entire estate was to be his. There wasn't even a notable mention of me, aside from vague platitudes about loving us equally. It was infuriating. I had devoted myself to their well-being, ensuring their bills were paid and food was stocked, only to be disregarded. And Eric? He had the knack for making them believe he was the deserving son, perhaps because he was the youngest and coddled, or maybe he manipulated them. Anger and betrayal coursed through me. My dad interrupted my thoughts, asking about the delay in scanning. I held up the will, confronting him with eerie calmness. So this is how things were, I said. Despite my efforts, Eric was the sole heir. My dad's face went white momentarily before offering a tired, "Jake, it's not what you think." His empty excuse did little, but irritate me further. I realized an apology or valid explanation wouldn't come. I needed closure from both parents, so I called for my mom. Her reaction was guilt-filled yet dismissive. She suggested I didn't need the inheritance and that Eric struggled more. That statement made me seethe. It was clear to me. They had chosen to enable Eric's idleness, preparing to reward it at my expense. I set the will down, took a breath, and expressed my understanding of our family dynamics before leaving. I ignored their attempts to stop me and left, the sound of the door echoing their decision. From that day, I ceased all contact, choosing to focus on my own path. For the first time in several years, I decided to let them tackle their own issues. If they needed repairs done, they could figure it out themselves. If they required groceries, they could find their own way to the store. Most importantly, when the mortgage bill came, it was no longer my responsibility. The silence that followed lasted around 2 weeks. Initially, I think they believed I was sulking and would eventually crawl back as usual. Perhaps they expected me to calm down and apologize for daring to question their judgment. But as the days went by without a word from me, and especially without financial support, you could almost feel the change in their mindset. Then, one afternoon, my phone vibrated with a text from Dad. "The property taxes are due." That was it. No, "Hey, how have you been?"
No he paledí.
No gratitude for everything I'd done. Just a cold, businesslike message, as though I were still the ATM they could tap into whenever it suited them. I stared at the screen for a moment, almost amused at their predictability. They truly thought they could continue demanding money as if nothing had transpired. I typed back, "I'm sure Eric will handle it since it's his house after all." Precisely 5 minutes passed before my mom called. I let it ring. Then another text arrived. Mom texted, "Jake, please don't be like this. We need to talk." Now, they wanted to talk, now that their bills were piling up and reality was setting in. I waited an hour before replying. "There's nothing to talk about. You made your choice. Now you can live with it." I assumed that would conclude the day's events. I had made my position crystal clear, and I didn't feel a hint of guilt. But then Eric decided to join in. His message arrived later that evening, and the moment I saw his name, I knew it would be something obnoxious. Sure enough, when I opened it, I was greeted with pure entitlement. Eric texted, "Dude, why are you being such a drama queen? It's not a big deal, just help them out like you always do." I nearly laughed. Not a big deal? He was acting like I had no right to be upset. I replied, "No, I think you've got it covered since you're the favorite after all." Eric texted back, "Oh my God, are you seriously mad about the will? Grow up, man. It's just money." Now it was just money since it was his to inherit. The hypocrisy was astonishing. I shot back, "Then you won't mind using some of that money to pay the mortgage, right?" Silence ensued. A few minutes later, my mom texted me again, this time employing the full guilt trip tactic. Jake, we're your parents. Family takes care of each other. We did so much for you growing up, and now you're just abandoning us. I took a deep breath to keep myself from hurling the phone across the room. Abandoning them? I'd spent years ensuring they never had to struggle, while they coddled Eric and rewarded his laziness. Now that they had to face the consequences of their decisions, I was the villain. I wasn't going to fall for it, not this time. I responded, you made it clear I wasn't part of the family when you left me out of the will. Now Eric can take care of you. I could picture my mom gasping dramatically at that response. She always had a flair for playing the victim, even when she was at fault. A few moments later, my dad sent another message that made me seethe. We're not asking for much, just enough to cover the mortgage for a few more months until we figure things out. Don't be selfish. The word selfish made my blood boil. I had been supporting them for years, sacrificing my own finances, time, and energy to make their lives easier. I fulfilled every duty of a good son, and how did they repay me? By making sure I got nothing in return. And now, when I was finally taking a stand for myself, I was the selfish one? I clenched my jaw, took a deep breath, and typed back, no, I'm done. Then I switched off my phone. They had made their choice. Now they were going to live with it. The silence lasted a day. I knew my parents wouldn't give up that easily, but I didn't anticipate what happened next. The following morning, I woke up to a notification on my phone, a bank transfer request. I frowned, unlocking my phone to check. It was from my mom. She had actually sent me a request for money as if I were some ATM. The amount, $3,500. I stared at it in disbelief, half laughing at the audacity. No message, no explanation, just a brazen, shameless demand for exactly what they needed to cover the overdue mortgage. They weren't even asking anymore. They were just assuming I'd cave. Just minutes after I declined the request, my phone started ringing. It was Mom. I didn't pick up, and soon a text message followed. Jake, I know you saw the request. Why did you decline it? Mom texted with urgency. I took a pause before replying. It's not my responsibility. Try Eric. Ignoring another call, more texts came in. We're going to lose the house if you don't help us, Mom added. Their cries for help were sudden. After years of being treated like a cash machine, they were now facing the music. I responded, maybe you should have considered that before you decided I didn't matter. Moments later, Dad joined in. You're really going to let your parents become homeless? The ridiculousness of their blatant manipulation amused me. They weren't truly broke. They didn't want to touch their savings, accustomed to me footing the bills. I pushed them out of my mind for the rest of the day. Later that night, Eric messaged, Dude, just send them the money already. You're making a bigger deal out of this than it is. I felt irritation rise. How dare he try to preach to me? I shot back. The same money you're supposed to inherit? Why not send them some? Eric replied fast. You know I don't have that kind of cash right now. Suddenly, affordability was his concern. It was acceptable to drain my resources, but he had nothing to contribute when it was his turn. I responded, Guess you better figure it out, bro. You're their favorite. Silence. I ended the night with a strange sense of liberation, finally shaking off years of their manipulation. The next day, at work, my phone buzzed. It was my apartment's front desk. Hey, Jake. Your parents are here. My grip tightened on the phone. What? I nearly dropped it. They hesitated. They say it's an emergency and that you're not answering calls. They had come to my home because I stopped supporting them. I braced myself. Please don't let them in. I'm not expecting visitors. There was a pause. They're quite insistent. My patience thinned. I don't care. They can leave. I ended the call. A text from Mom arriving immediately. We're downstairs. Open the door. Not a question, just another demand. I ignored it. Jake, we're not leaving until you talk to us. Another text followed. Frustrated, I stood up. They wouldn't back down. Then I'd show them who I'd become. Keys in hand, I descended with my resolve escalating. They had the audacity to ambush me at home, assuming they could push me like before. I opened the door, facing them. There stood Mom, Dad, and unsurprisingly, Eric, grouped like they were staging an intervention. Mom's arms were crossed, projecting disapproval. Dad's hands were in his pockets, mixing frustration with entitlement, unaware I wouldn't budge. Eric appeared bored, unfazed by the mess he helped create. Mom launched theatrics. Jake, we need to talk. I leaned on the door frame. No, you need to leave. Her surprise was apparent. Excuse me, she stuttered. You came here demanding money. It's absurd. Dad scoffed sharply. You'd let us lose the house over a petty grudge? I couldn't hold back a dry laugh. Petty grudge? Oh, like when I was worthy financially, but not in your will. That grudge. Mom reacted theatrically. Jake, it's not fair. We did what was best for the family. I tilted my head. Best for the family, or just Eric? Admit it. Silence lingered heavily. Eric, who had been silent, finally interjected. Look, man, I didn't ask for this. As if on cue, I turned to him. No, you simply take what's handed to you. You're 28, Eric, get a job. His face flushed. Dude, what's your problem? I stepped closer. You heard me. Want to be the golden child? Start paying bills. I'm done. Eric, your personal bank, suddenly became fascinated by the pavement, turning his gaze away. Mom took a deep breath, recalibrating her guilt trip. Jake, he's your brother. I nodded. Yep, and I've supported him longer than you ever have. Dad's face darkened. You're being selfish. A genuine laugh burst out of me. Oh, that's rich coming from you. I gestured between them. You both decided Eric deserved everything, and I got nothing. Now, when it's time to face the consequences, you want me to fix it for you. Not happening. Mom's voice sharpened. We thought you'd be mature about this. I raised an eyebrow. Mature? You mean quietly accept that I was betrayed, keep paying your bills because, let's be real, that's what you wanted. Dad stepped forward, trying to loom over me like the past. Jake, we raised you, fed you, clothed you, gave you everything. The least you can do is help us now. I met his gaze steadily. I did, for years, and you repaid me by cutting me out. Mom's lip trembled. We thought you'd understand. I exhaled, shaking my head. Oh, I understand. I understand perfectly that I was never family to you, just a paycheck. Silence followed, suffocating, undeniable silence. I turned to Eric, who still pretended to be invisible. And you? What's your excuse? Years to grow up and contribute, but you didn't because you knew they'd take care of you. When they're gone, you just expected me to step in, huh? Eric finally snapped. What do you want me to say, man? I didn't ask for this. I nodded slowly. Right, you didn't ask. You just benefited. His mouth opened, then closed. Nothing, he had nothing. Mom tried one last guilt trip. Jake, we're family. Family takes care of each other. I stared at her for a long moment before answering. Exactly. So, why didn't you take care of me? She froze, no words, no comeback, nothing. I let out a slow breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. We're done here. I turned and walked back inside, closing the door behind me. Before I even made it back to my couch, my phone buzzed with a new text from Dad. Wow, after everything we've done for you, you're really going to abandon us? I smirked, typing back. No, you abandoned me. I'm just finally accepting it. I hit send, then blocked their numbers. But I was unaware that blocking them was only going to escalate things. It didn't take long for the situation to spiral out of control. Less than a day after I blocked them, posts began appearing on Facebook. My parents, never the most tech-savvy, knew exactly how to air their grievances online, especially when feeling self-righteous. Initially, I thought it was just them being dramatic. Airing out family drama in public was their go-to move. However, as I scrolled through their feeds, it dawned on me it wasn't just about me not helping with bills anymore. The posts, under the guise of family love, were thinly veiled digs at me. Mom posted about how she didn't raise her son to be so selfish, emphasizing that true family helps each other no matter what. A few friends commented along the lines of how I was a disappointment and out of touch with what really mattered. Then Dad added his post. So-called families shouldn't turn their back when you need them most. We gave everything to our children, and this is how we're repaid. My son, who should help us in our golden years, has chosen to abandon us. He tagged me, adding a passive-aggressive, "I hope you're happy" at the end. But the real shocker came from Eric. I should have known he'd jump into the drama, sharing a post laden with falsehoods. Some people think family is just about money. They don't understand it's about love and sacrifice. I'd do anything for my parents, but some people don't get that. They're too wrapped up in themselves to realize that true love is about helping those who raised you. He even included a thinly veiled jab at me. I wish some people knew what it truly means to be family. I love my parents and I am grateful for everything they've done. That was it, the tipping point. I sat there, staring at the screen in disbelief. How had it come to this? They shifted the whole situation, painting me as the villain, the selfish son not willing to support his sacrificial parents, the son who didn't appreciate all the love they claimed to have given me. I was always the one who worked hard, contributed, never complained. Yet they managed to convince themselves they were in the right. Now they were telling everyone I was the problem. I didn't want to react rashly, so I took a step back, composed my thoughts, and paused for a few hours before deciding on any course of action. The more I contemplated the situation, the clearer it became that I couldn't allow them to tarnish my reputation without taking action. So I grabbed my phone and started typing. I accessed my personal Facebook account, reserved for close friends and actual family, and composed a detailed update. My goal wasn't to get embroiled in their games or petty disputes, but to reveal the truth. This is what I wrote. I've been silent for a few days, but I can't continue to stay silent. My family has been spreading misinformation about me online, depicting me as the villain, the selfish one refusing to aid my parents in their time of need. It's time to set the record straight. From the day I could work, I helped my family, supporting them by paying bills, buying groceries, and providing in any way possible. However, you eventually reach a limit where giving without receiving respect is no longer feasible. Over the years, I've observed them favoring Eric, giving him everything, the house, money, and attention, while I was expected to keep giving without being seen as an equal. You might believe that's just how families operate, but true family dynamics involve a mutual exchange. It dawned on me how one-sided this relationship truly was when I learned my parents bequeathed everything to Eric in their will. They didn't even consider me for a second. To them, I was merely someone to rely on when things were tough, never genuinely wanted around unless it was beneficial to them. For years, I've funded their lifestyle, paying for vacations, contributing to bills, and even assisting with property taxes, all to be treated like a backup plan. I'm finished being the convenient wallet. I'm a person deserving of respect and recognition for my worth, not just for what I provide. As for Eric, it's beyond time for him to mature. At 28, he's never worked a single day or assumed responsibility for anything. It's not surprising he's their favorite. Despite ample opportunity to get his life in order, it's time for him to stand independently. To everyone tracking this situation and supporting my parents, remember there are two sides to every story. Family is essential, but so is mutual respect. I've given enough for a lifetime, and I'm not sorry for stepping back. This isn't abandonment of family, but finally choosing myself. I wish my parents well, but I'm no longer their doormat. I hit post and felt an immense relief wash over me. For the first time in my life, I was exposing the truth of how my family had used me for years, always expecting me to bail them out without considering my needs. I wouldn't let their narrative control my life anymore. The responses were swift. People I hadn't heard from in years offered support. Cousins, my parents' friends, even distant relatives liked the post, sending private messages expressing their sympathy for my ordeal. It was liberating to have the truth aired, unhindered by guilt trips or manipulation. Yet, backlash followed as my parents and Eric reacted vehemently. Eric messaged accusing me of betrayal for broadcasting our business. Dad called, practically shouting, "You've ruined everything, Jake. You'll regret cutting us off. You'll regret turning your back on family. But there was no regret, not for a second. I blocked them all. Finally, I was liberated from their toxic grip that had held me for so long. With each passing day, I felt the burden lifting off my shoulders. I was through with being treated as a lesser being, the fixer for everyone's problems, and I now embrace the freedom to live on my terms. I have no remorse for distancing myself. I've always deserved better. From now on, I'm surrounding myself with those who appreciate me for my true self, not for what I can offer. It's time to move forward, truly and permanently. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below.